Hi, welcome to episode 493 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. And I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, October 21st, and I am coming to you from sort of the south side of Kansas City on the Kansas side, and I hope that you are having a lovely day. It has been pretty good here. It's actually, fingers crossed, maybe a little bit of a quieter week. We had a number of people out on vacation last week, and so it was a busy week at work and a busy crafting week. And actually we had a really busy weekend as well. This weekend was the Kansas City Marathon. And my husband chose to participate in what they call the I-35 Challenge, which is you run a half marathon on Saturday in Kansas City, and then you run another half marathon on Sunday in Des Moines. And Des Moines is approximately 3 hours from Kansas City. So basically, we turned it into a weekend. We've done this before. And Friday night we went out to dinner, and then we stayed at a hotel up near where the race is, which is about an hour north of us. And so we stayed in a hotel. We got up early in the morning on Saturday. My husband did the half marathon and I did a 10K. And then when we finished, we showered at the hotel, and then we checked out and headed for Iowa, because one of the things that we needed to do was get to Iowa in time to pick up our packets for the next day. So we had a really great, we stopped somewhere kind of midway between Kansas City and Des Moines at a restaurant that my parents had recommended when they had come through on one of their trips, I think during the pandemic. And so we stopped and had lunch, and then we got there and we got our packets, and we hit up the local market and picked up some snack foods and some drinks and stuff, and kind of collapsed into the hotel room. And then on Sunday we got up and sort of did it again. My husband did the second half marathon, and then I did a 5K on Sunday. There wasn't a 10K, and I was actually really glad about that. And usually we've done the Kansas City Des Moines thing. This will be our third time. This was our third time. And typically the course in Des Moines is very, very flat. They have it kind of in the downtown area, and so in the past we've just run on the numbered streets downtown, and it's been super flat. This year they got a new course director who decided he wanted to make things interesting, and so we actually did some hill running, which was not that much fun, and my husband and I realized that we were not really in shape to do two back-to-back runs, and so we got home last night very tired and sore, and we're still limping around a little bit today. I managed to rub blisters on my feet, which was not that much fun, and he's just super sore, so I think we're just going to take it easy and kind of recover from that. We had some really good food. We had just a good time kind of getting out of the city, but it certainly wasn't a relaxing vacation. I did get some crafting done. I had 3 hours in the car on Saturday and 3 hours in the car on Sunday. In the past, I probably would have knit all of those. And I could not this time. And so to me, what I did was disappointing, but I realized that I'm kind of like the tortoise right now. I'm just kind of slow and steady and building back up. So I have lots of things to show you. But actually, I'm going to start with, well, okay, let's start with what is usually the tea, but today is coffee. I have my French vanilla caramel, which is from the roastery, and then I have it in a Hershey's cup from when we visited the Hershey's chocolate mill in Pennsylvania quite a few years ago, also for a run trip. We seem to do a lot of those. And so I am drinking coffee today because I am just trying to make it through the afternoon. So I didn't sleep well at all on Friday night, and then I slept like a rock on Saturday night for almost 12 hours because I was so tired, and so last night was a little bit better. But you know, I've hit that. It's approximately 2:53 in the afternoon here. I'm just getting to take sort of I scarfed some lunch earlier, like between meetings, but I'm sort of taking my lunch break 20 minutes right now, and so I have a little bit of coffee to kind of get me through that last push at the end of the day. So I will spend the bulk of my time on knitting, but actually I have one finished object to show you today, and that is my quilt. And so I finished it. I showed it to you last week. So the pattern is called Mini Petals. It was designed by Robert Kaufman, and it was designed to be used with a specific batik fabric, but it is a free pattern from Robert Kaufman that you can download. And basically what I did, the pattern itself calls for a layer cake, which is 10-inch squares, and then you cut those 10-inch squares, you make 2 cuts in them, so you have 4 5-inch squares, and then what you do is you snowball the corners, and snowballing the corners means you sew smaller squares of fabric to the corners, so that you then create kind of a pattern with those corners in different colors. And then when you lay it out, it kind of splays out from the center. And the project was done in gradient fabrics, and so I selected completely different fabrics to do mine, but I did select something that would sort of be a gradient and then arranged it from the inner set outwards. So I misunderstood that they used a layer cake. So what I did is actually I bought 2 charm packs. Charm packs are 5-inch squares. It meant that I had a few fewer squares to work with. So not everything looks exactly the same, but that's fine. The fabrics that I chose to use are Kaif Facet. And Kaif is a textile designer who he kind of crosses between knitting and quilting. Originally he was, or knitting and fabric. He designs yarn. He is a designer for Rowan, and has done sweaters with them for years. And then he also does fabrics, and traditionally he is a painter, and so he loves tons and tons of color, so his fabrics are bright and bold, and then a lot of his knits for Rowan are in tarja and are also bright and bold. So without further ado, this is my finished quilt. And this is a wall quilt. It's approximately 40 by 40. And as you can see, I took my gradient and I started from the center out, and mine is in greens. The charm pack that I used is called Meadow. And so it starts at kind of limey greens and then goes all the way to the outer edge where you get some teals, and it's just got a ton of bright, fun prints. And then I used some black fabric. It's just reading as plain black from back here, but actually it has almost like a little bubble print on it. I don't know if you can see. It almost looks, it's supposed to be bubbles. That's what it was called, but to me it almost also looks like it could be like leopard spots, and so that's what I used for my black corners. And then I just set it with well, I started with a 2.5-inch border, so it's approximately 2, but then I also put binding over it and whatnot, but I set it with the border because I wanted it to float a little bit. I didn't want it to just stop at the corners, and then I bound it with the same, so lots and lots of black, and then my Kaif, and I backed it in Kaif fabric as well. This is something completely different. This is kind of his water lilies, and I think it's water lilies, or is it chrysanthemums? I can't even remember. But this is just kind of a big bright backing, and it had all of the greens featured in it, and some of the blues and a little bit that got into the front, so I thought it would just be a fun piece on the back. This is like I said, about a 40 by 40. It is a wall hanging from my wall because I loved the fabric and I loved the idea, and it is a perfect square, as perfect as it can be when you don't sew perfect 1/4-inch seams. So it is as close to square as I can make it, and it will be going up on the wall. Probably, I currently have my Halloween quilt up, and then I'm gonna put up a somewhat a red and white Christmas themed quilt that I showed you, and then this is kind of the one that I'll probably put up right after the first of the year. So I am pleased that that is done. It's not completely finished because like in knitting, there's also sort of finishing in a quilt, and that is washing and drying it. And so I have not put it through the washing machine and dryer yet. That I'm catching up on laundry today, so I will do that in the next few days. So technically it's the equivalent of finished but not blocked, and so I will plan to do that, and I'm excited. And then the other thing that I ordered this week is Missouri Star got in. I work for Missouri Star, so this is I talk about their products a lot. They are, I will say, all opinions in here are my own. I'm not paid for anything that I talk about for them, but I do work for them, so I'm not, and I don't get any money if you shop from them. I don't have any affiliate codes. This is not like that. I'm just kind of, that's where I get a lot of my fabric and a lot of my notions. And what I was going to say is I ordered a quilt rack this weekend from them. It's like a hanging rack that goes on the back of the door. So it's got braces, like metal brackets to go over the door, and then it's got 3 different levels, so you can kind of fold quilts and hang them over like hangers, almost like you would hang a pair of pants in the closet. And it is meant to hang on a door, so I don't know whether I'm going to put it on the front or the back of the door to my craft room here, but it is where I can store the wall quilts when they're not in use, which was really what I wanted. So I ordered one of those, and that should be here later this week. And once Halloween passes, I will take my Halloween quilt down and rotate through the other quilts, and it will give me a good spot to store them rather than, I'm just going to move the phone very briefly. You can see they are on the couch now. So that's the one that I just finished, and right beneath it is the red and white one that I showed you, the half square triangle one that I did previously. So I have not started another quilt. I showed you some baby fabric last time. And I am excited to start that. I have some ideas, but I was out of town this weekend and away from my cutting and sewing table, so I didn't worry about that. So let's talk about the 3 things that I have on the needles, and I did get some good progress in on 2 of them this weekend because I took them with me. The third I am really, really enjoying, and I did put in some progress before I left, but I specifically left it at home so that I would make progress on the other projects. Because sometimes we have to do that to ourselves, and it is the carrot, so I might work on it a little bit tonight, but I don't know. I have 2 projects that I am bound and determined to get done by the 31st of October, and that gives me, it is the 21st today, so that gives me 10 days to get through them, and so I am really, really going to try to get through them because I want to start some new things on November 1st, and I have a couple things waiting in the wings. So the first thing that I'm working on is my mom's sweater. You've heard about this a bunch of times, both 2 years ago and now. It is the Night Out cardigan from Joji Locatelli, and it is a top-down raglan sleeve cardigan that has little lace panels kind of around the button band, and I am working on the sleeves. I made the sweater for my mom in March of 2022, and she decided the sleeves were a little bit too big in circumference and a little bit too long for her. And so you may remember that as of the last podcast, I showed you the first finished sleeve, and I went back and started the second. So what I did is I finished the sleeve on a Sunday right before I podcasted on Monday, and what I did is I finished the sleeve at midnight, and then I unraveled the second sleeve and put the needles in and left it. And actually I didn't do any of it this past week because I was so distracted by other things, which is why I brought it on my car trip with me. And so now I have about 5 or 6 inches into the second sleeve. So that is what I got done this weekend. It is not as much as I should have. It is passable. I'll take it. And I would really, really, really like to finish this sleeve this week. This is one of the projects I would like to finish by the end of the month. And I mean, I realize that I have next weekend and then a little bit into the following week. But I would really, really, really like to finish this month so I can block this and bring this back to my mom at Thanksgiving and kind of have this one done and out. This has not been the most exciting knit. It is not a problem. As I have said, I got really lucky because they were raglan sleeves. They were easy to unravel, and because I am making the sleeves smaller than the previous ones, I didn't even have to find any yarn. I'm just using the leftover yarn from where I unraveled the sleeves, and I will actually have a little bit left over when I am done, so I didn't have to worry about matching or any of those things. I am knitting with it after I have kind of pulled it out, so it is a little ramen-like, which is why it looks a little bit uneven, but I will block it when I finish. Again, my hope is to get these done this week, and I'm really going to try and make myself work on these this week. Like I said, this is not the most exciting project. It's just round and round stockinette, and of course I've done them before, so re-knitting sleeves is even less fun than knitting them the first time, but I am pleased to make the sweater fit the way my mom wants it to, so hopefully she will wear it a bunch. So that is the project that I've been working on this month, and it's not a lot of knitting, but it is more than I was getting done before, so we'll take it. So that is progress on that one. The second project that I made progress on and that I need to be making more progress on, this is the other one I would like to emphasize this week, is I am making socks for my nephew for a holiday gift. And we generally, I see my family, so my family does not celebrate Christmas, and so we generally have kind of our celebration and gift exchange at Thanksgiving, which means my holiday gifts need to be done a month early, so I have a little over a month to finish holiday gifts. And this year I am not knitting for most people because I have had so much trouble with my arm this year, but I decided I was going to knit a pair of socks for each of the children whose feet are almost my size now, so I don't know why I'm still calling them children. They are children. They are children, they're not even teenagers yet, but apparently their feet are close to my size. Anyway, so I've been working on a sock for Miles. And the yarn that I'm using is Deep Stash. It is Knit Picks Hawthorne Fingering in the colorway Vancouver. That is 80% superwash fine Highland wool and 20% polyamide, 357 yards to skein of 100 grams, and I am cruising on down the foot now. So I am still waiting for my sister to hopefully send me tracings of the kids' feet. Otherwise, I am going to just guess based on they're a little shorter than my feet. This year, I actually am knitting both kids' socks almost the size I would knit for my feet. I'm knitting 56 stitches on size zeros. Technically, I usually go to 60 stitches on size zeros for myself. So they're a little bit smaller, but they're gosh darn pretty close to my size. So I'm going to almost say they're there. Last week, I think I had just finished the heel and maybe a little bit of the gusset, so I really only got maybe 1.5 inches done this week. I had the last couple decreases of the gusset and then just a little bit more, but I'm cruising on down the foot, and I really would like to finish this one in the next night or two and start the second one. If I could finish this pair of socks by the 31st, that would be great, because I still have another pair of socks to knit for his sister, and her feet are bigger than his feet, although they're both getting pretty close to the same. There's just a couple years between them, and they're boys, he's growing like a weed and his feet are bigger, and yeah. So this is just my standard sock. It's a 2x2 rib and then a slip stitch heel flap and gusset, and then I will do a rounded toe and call it a day. I pretty much just do stockinette because it's easy to do in the round, and it's actually pretty easy for my arm as well. And this all was like one session in the car, so I thought that was not, or this was actually one session in front of the TV in the hotel room one night. So I need to get better about working on this, and I really do need to kind of speed through so that I can get through another pair of socks, so I have one for each of them for their holiday gifts. Otherwise, they're just getting toys or something else this year, because I ain't got no time for that. No, most years I send them winter gear like hats and scarves and mittens and stuff, and all of that stuff still fits for them. And I had actually already planned not to make this a big knitting year anyway, because their birthdays are coming up in a few weeks, and usually I knit sweaters for them as well. But then when I had trouble with my arm, it seemed like the perfect year not to do a lot of knitting. But their feet keep growing, and socks are really fairly easy and normally do not take me that much time. I mean, normally I can knit a pair of socks for one of them in a week. And even with their feet close to my size, I can knit a pair of socks for myself in a week at my old productive rate. So I'm hoping that I will get through both of these. I will have lots of car time. We are driving out to Los Angeles for Thanksgiving again, but I also don't want to leave it all to the end, because if my arm is bothering me, I won't be able to spend a lot of time at it. So really, I'm going to try and chip away at this like 10, 15 rows a day, or rounds a day, and just get these done so the kids can have some socks for Christmas. And then in December, I plan to turn my attention to my own socks. I have a pair that's in progress, and I have some wintry sock yarn that I would love to cast on Christmas Eve. So my hope is maybe I'll crank out another couple pairs. I don't know. We'll just see. We'll see how it goes. So that is this one. Hopefully by next week I will have a finished one and another one started for you, because that will be the 28th of October, and I will be running out of time. So the knit that I have been most excited about, because it's finally something new that I cast on, is I decided to join in the Clappity Fest knit along, celebrating the anniversary of Knitty, and I found a really great skein of yarn in my stash from a local to me dyer who dyes these just beautiful oversized skeins. It is Threadhead Designs, and that is Marcy Blank, and she sells it mostly at festivals here. She does have a website, and I have linked that in the show notes, but I don't think she actually sells online. I don't think she's ever. Almost all of her skeins are one of a kind. She just dyes these big oversized skeins and puts them out, and they're beautiful, and they're in all colors and a bunch of different fibers. I knit a tank top or a tee for myself this summer using one of her merino bamboo skeins. This is a jumbo superwash skein, 8 ounces, 560 yards, so approximately a worsted weight, and it is in blues, which never show up quite right on the monitor. And this is what I worked on a lot last week with the evenings, when I would work like one repeat of the pattern, which is at this point like about 12 rows, and my rows are 100-ish stitches long, so that's a decent number of stitches. You know, we're talking 1,200 stitches, and it's not a ton of stitches, but given what I've been knitting lately, it is. Anyway, so I am finally getting into it, and I'm getting to the part where I can, whoops, this side, gotta remember camera, where I can start to drop some of those stitches, and it's just looking really good. I'm very excited about this. I knit a Clappity years and years ago, and it was in sock yarn and tiny, and I think I donated it, and the idea of just having a really pretty scarf to just wrap around myself and get nice pockets of warm air, I'm very, very excited about it. So the interesting thing about the about the clapetee is that originally it was designed to be viewed from the wrong side, so you had your reverse stockinette stitches and your dropped stitches, just because they thought that looked best. I can't decide which I like because you can see it on the knit side as well as the purl side. And I guess the part about the purl side that I like is that it breaks up the colors a little bit, so if there's any pooling, it's not quite as obvious, but this is the side that I basically work from. Anyway, so I'm working on that. Hopefully I'll have a few more dropped sections. This is the carrot, the stick and carrot approach to knitting other things, which is maybe if I finish the sock, I'll let myself do another repeat on this. I don't know what it is about this project, but this, just because it's squishy and it's lovely and it's something for me and it's new, I think all of those things are making me want to work on it, and I am really, really, really trying to push myself to get a few things done this month, because next month I would like to mostly be about me. I will still have this going, I am sure, and I would like to cast on a sweater for Nanny Swaymo, and then the only other thing that I plan to cast on is socks for my niece, which is sort of the corollary pair to the socks for Miles. And I even have the skein pulled aside. This is 3 Irish Girls, and it's her Adorn sock. It's an 80/20 merino nylon, and it was a limited edition colorway called You Are My Sunshine. This was designed for those who had lost had a miscarriage or who have lost a baby, and it was very poignant, and so I bought a skein back in the day. And again, this is deep stash. This has been in there for a long time. It's a beautiful skein. For a long time I was like bound and determined I had to do something incredibly meaningful with it, and now I just decided it's pretty and I want to knit a pair of socks, and it's got some merino and nylon in there, and so it's perfect, and I think Roxy will really like the colors. So that's my plan, and that's my next couple of cast-ons. So I hope by the time I see you next, I will have a swatch for Nanny Swaymo. Remember, that starts November 1st. If you want to participate, the rules are simple. Knit a sweater between November 1st and November 30th. To be eligible for prizes, you have to cast on the 1st and be done by the 30th. It has to be 50,000 stitches. Now you can knit or crochet, and I will tell you that most adult sweater patterns will have enough stitches unless it is like really bulky or a super cropped sweater. Certainly fingering weight adult sweaters will, and most worsted weight adult sweaters will as well. I am not knitting for prizes this year. I'm also not knitting to push myself through an entire sweater in a month. It is a challenge that I have done since I think 2008 or 2009, and almost every year I have succeeded in knitting and finishing a sweater. There was one year that I finished the sweater and hated it, so I ripped it out and I remade it into something else later. And I do not expect to finish my sweater in November, but my hope is maybe I'll finish it by January and I'll get to wear it in the new year. If you don't care about prizes and you just want to knit a sweater and join a group that is knitting sweaters for all different body types in all different colorways in all different patterns, and just kind of have a fun cheerleading group and a we're in this together, then I strongly encourage you to join the group, or any number of groups. There are a variety of sweater groups in particularly in November. And cast on and join us. And if you've never knit a sweater, knit a baby sweater, knit anything, I mean, like I said, it's really only to be eligible for prizes, and most years at this point prizes aren't really even the point. Like in the beginning there was a big prize draw, but honestly in the last couple of years prizes have been not the point. I am a moderator in that group, so if there are prizes I will be, you know, kind of coordinating that, but the last couple of years there haven't been, and honestly you can participate without following the rules, as it were. So I think that's all I have for you this week. Like I said, I'm going to try and finish some things up so we can move on to other projects, because I'm tired of bringing you all the same projects all the time. And I would like to cast on some new things and maybe get a few things off the needles before the end of the year. So I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are crafting up a storm and not entirely just gift crafting. And I hope the weather is lovely and you are just having a good time and staying healthy. I will say until I see you next week, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy crocheting, happy quilting, happy any craft you choose to do, and of course, happy simming. And I'll see you next time. Bye.